Welcome back to Her Birth, Her Story, where we share real birth experiences. I'm Brooke, your host, and on today's episode, we are sitting down with Jordyn, who is a mom of two who has actually experienced 2 home births. And the crazy thing is, her and her husband were actually on board with home birth for their first before they were ever even pregnant or preparing for a baby. And we get to see how awesome and different both of her home births were. In her second, we even jump into how her midwife actually didn't show up until 5 minutes after she had her baby, but her doula was the one who delivered her baby. And that is one of the reasons why she is so big on supporting the mother and making sure that whoever you choose and wherever you choose, those people and those places make you feel safe. They encourage you and they believe that you can do this. She is so big on knowledge is power and how it is important not to just go off of your best friend's opinions or the influencer online, their opinions, but to really find the facts so that when you make decisions, you feel confident. So please join me as we hold space for Jordyn and her birth stories. Hey, Jordyn, thank you so much for coming on Her Birth, Her Story. Can you go ahead and start by introducing yourself to us?
I'm Jordyn Pigman. I live in Columbus, Ohio with my husband, John, and our 2 kids. We have a boy and a girl, and they're both home births. And yeah, so our family lives here and we love it here.
That's awesome. So can you go ahead and just kind of share with us, like, what was your view on pregnancy and birth before even starting your pregnancy and birth journeys?
So it's kind of funny because I got into birth before we were trying to conceive, really like before our wedding even. I went back through my phone because I wanted to know, I'm like, when did this start? Even my husband was like, I don't know. We just kind of like arrived here, which is kind of like, I think that similar frameworks of, we live like a more natural wellness lifestyle. We're really big on like natural wellness and like more holistic health. And I think a lot of those like frameworks kind of like led me into just kind of like learning about it. Wasn't really familiar with it until, about like 2021. But that was like around our wedding before we ever even had kids. So by the time I found out I was pregnant, it was already like done, decided. We really didn't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think I just maybe like someone in that space, a health and wellness space, had a home birth, and I just was like so intrigued and just like wanted to know more. And I had the text of my husband like saying like, I don't know, like what do you like a home birth could be really great. And then like it was almost like me not really sure about it, but that's like the initial text I sent, and it was so cool to look back on that conversation and him being like, let's do it. That was a text back. He said, let's do it. He said, we need a baby first. And then, I was like, I don't know if I can do that. And he was like, you can do it. That's like classic male for you. Like, let's do it. You can do it. Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the first chat we had about it in 2021. Now I'm on the other side of it 2 births later. So
yeah, no, that is amazing. And, I just think it's awesome that for your first, you pursued a home birth, because a lot of times I feel like they always want to, because I also fall in this category, want to do the first one at the hospital unmedicated just to see if you can do it. And then the next one ends up being a home birth because you're like, oh, if I can do it at the hospital, I can do it at home. So what really made you want to pursue home birth besides maybe like some crunchy influencers doing that? Was there anybody that really spoke into you personally?
I would say just the general reason was like, I know kind of like what goes on in hospitals and just the medical system and how it all works. And just kind of like we're already kind of like, don't make it a point to be in the medical system for other things. And it's like, well, if there was a way for me to not give birth in that system, I'm very interested in that. And then that kind of led me to learning about it. And I kind of just looked into the statistics, got more information, and like learned about the C-section rate, and just kind of was like, I think that's a no for me. Actually, I know that's a no for me. And just kind of like was like, okay, I'm watching home births. I'm learning more about it, reading these statistics. Evidence-based birth was my best friend. Learning about just learning. I think
that's a great resource. Evidence-based birth, that is a fantastic resource. And I have even mentioned them and their article over circumcision that if you listen to the circumcision minisode, I put that in the show notes that you definitely should check out. But
yeah, it's
go ahead.
great. It's great just for like taking the emotion out of, things like this and just being like, okay, like this is not my opinion. This is like the facts, which many of those facts, all of those facts led me to that decision. And then, yeah, I just think it was very like God aligned. Like I met a friend of mine. She was actually my wedding planner, and she was the only person in my personal life that I knew that had a home birth. So again, that was back like we were planning my wedding, and she had her baby like I think maybe like 3 weeks before my wedding, home birth. And so then when the time came, we had become great friends. Like we were best friends now. And so I had asked her all the questions that you're not really going to like Google, but you want to talk to a human about, someone in your personal life. Like, okay, tell me about this. Like, yeah, let me know how you pushed your baby out without, like, what's that like? What did it really feel like? Like, unhinged, unfiltered, like, give it to me, like, tell me all the things. And she kind of like walked me through the experience. And I felt like it was not at all what I was expecting. And yeah, it was just so great to like have a person to like talk to about that. So she really was just able to answer a lot of my questions. A lot of times on social media, you see these home births, but like you still have questions. You just see, lights and pools and peaceful births. And like there's still so much left undiscussed. And you're just like, I still don't, looks great, but like I still have so many questions. And so it was great to have like one person in my life that had gone through it. And she's had two more. Well, yeah, she's had another birth since then. Yeah. So she's had two home births. And yeah, so we became great friends, and just having a tangible person that in my life that I could talk to about it instead of just like listen to an influencer online or watch videos that are cut and edited and all the parts you want to know about are cut out somehow. And like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
women just really want those real experiences, not just the fairy tale, everything's sunshine and rainbows. Like, it's awesome because birth is hard, labor is hard, no matter what. Even if you have such a beautiful experience, it's still hard work. It's still something that is a life-changing event that when you have questions and you want to know more, it is so important to have people that you can ask those questions to and really kind of seek that out. So I think that's great that you obviously had her to kind of like expose you to that and hopefully get you like on the kind of the right path to educating yourself more on what that would look like. So honestly, I'm going to have you just go ahead and jump into your first birth story.
So my first birth, my son, I feel like my whole pregnancy, I was kind of like just nervous about being pregnant. Like I was so excited to be a mom, and I just felt like I think a lot of other people's concerns being pressed on me, like they didn't make me question my decision ever. Like if anything, I was just like, this just confirms the lack of education around birth. Cause like people would say scary things to me, and I in my brain knew that they weren't true, or knew that they just did not know anything. Even like people that are in the medical system were like very concerned about me having that, like making that decision. Because they don't know, they know, they see birth a lot in the hospital, and like, so that concern comes from like a good place. Like they see a lot of things in the hospital. With home birth, it's like you're not seeing all these things. Like these are low risk moms. Home birth isn't for like moms with a lot of risk factors, and like it should be a low risk mom. And so I think that a lot of people plug in like the worst birth story they've ever heard and kind of just like put that on me as like a what if. And it's like, yeah. So I think that I started just not getting like nervous about my decision, but just like I really wish I could go back, and maybe I think I was just like a little naive. I just told everybody I was having a home birth, like excitedly. I was very confident about it, truly. And so naturally it just started a lot of unwanted conversations. And yeah, so I just remember praying a lot. I would like just be in the car driving, praying like, like, Lord, just give me peace. Like, I know this is what I want. This is where my heart's at. Like, this is, just give me peace. And I remember like even talking to my son while he was in my belly and just being like, look, little man, like you do your part and I'm going to do mine. Okay. Like it's going to take both of us. Like I knew that like I was designed to give birth that way. And yeah, I was very confident, but first time mom, like I didn't know any first time moms who had a home birth. Even my friend, she wasn't a first time mom. So yeah. And then I interviewed, my friend that I talked to about home births, she had kind of told me about like a friend of a friend that she knew who was a doula. And she was like, she's awesome. She's great. Interviewed her. I'm just going to shout her out. Like, I don't care if people know who she is. She's amazing. And everyone should know who she is. Chelsea Strapp with Origin Birth. I interviewed her, me and my husband did, and we clicked immediately. Loved her from the rip. Like our personality is just like, she is like the type of person that just like has this God-given gift of peace. Like she walks in a room and like you just feel the peace just come from her. Like it's crazy. Yeah, so we hired her. We hired her before like our midwife. And so that kind of led to finding our midwife. She kind of like, told us about our midwife. My midwife was Caitlin Hopper. And so we interviewed her. And also, again, like immediately we were like, okay, like loving her, like asked her so many questions, like so many questions, ask questions. But yeah, she was great. And then I think after our first appointment, which was around like when I was 3 months pregnant, yeah, around 12 weeks, we went to her office and it was just like not at all like what you expect when you go to like your first like prenatal appointment. And yeah, we're sitting in there on this like cozy couch, just like I don't know. I hate to compare it to like counseling, but kind of it was just like I'm just in here like talking about my feelings with you and just like we're I don't know. I'm a really relational person, so I just really value that. That's probably my favorite part about like home birth is just like feeling cared about the whole time by my doula, my midwife, having that time to like grow a relationship with them. Like I call them friends now. Like they would call me a friend too. And so yeah, I'm not saying that everyone needs to become friends with their doula and midwife. That's just how it worked out for me. But yeah, I love them. And yeah, so we saw Caitlin around 3 months and then I still was just like, okay, like what do I need to do? I know that this is going to be hard work. Like I'm not naive enough to be like, oh, I'm just going to have a home birth and it's going to look like that video I saw on Instagram. And like, again, I had studied birth. I know that it's hard. I've watched the videos. Like, and she had told me, like go to the chiropractor. So I'm going to the chiropractor for the first time in my life, doing all the things. And then went on like leave from work around like 39 weeks and then went to 41 weeks in a day until I went into labor, which was kind of hard because as a first time mom, like people start sending the text, making the calls, just like casually hitting you up, like trying to make it so casual, but really they're just trying to see if you're still pregnant. And if you have given birth before, you know what I'm talking about. So 41 weeks in a day is when he came that day. So the day before I texted my doula and it was around like 4 or 5 p.m. and was like, hey, like I have like this low back pain. Kind of reminds me of like a period, but it's like very dull. Like don't come. She's like, okay, I wasn't thinking I was going to come, but I'm first time mom. I don't really know what it's going to feel like for me. It kind of is different for everyone. So feel this low dull back pain, kind of just like didn't turn into anything serious. And then that night around like maybe like 9 p.m., like having cramps, but like again, very minor. Wouldn't really have thought anything of it, but I am like pretty in tune with my body. Like I hadn't been having that the whole time. So I'm like, this could mean I'm maybe gonna go into labor, but also could mean I could be having these for another few days. Really had no idea. First time mom. So then went to bed really late that night. Like I think like after midnight. And then I'm laying in bed. I start like having contractions, and I'm just like, again, nothing that really got my attention. I don't know if I was maybe expecting something more abrupt, but I was just laying there trying to like go to sleep through them. Again, it was like so late, and then I jumped out of bed. My water broke while I was laying down in bed. Literally didn't know what that felt like, obviously. So I jumped out of bed, texted my doula like, "Hey, my water broke." And at this point, like my husband is like going frantic, okay? Like one would do. So he's like, I'm going to start vacuuming right now. Like, I can't make this up. He went downstairs, started vacuuming, like had to do something right then and there. And I was like, are you vacuuming? Like, it's like 1 a.m. Yeah. So then basically what happened, all births are different, especially for first time moms. You don't have anything to go off of. Your body's never done it before. I'm like, this could be a long, long time. So I feel like I lived in this space my whole labor of like, this could go on till tomorrow night or end of the next day. I really don't know. And so I feel like I was in this frame of mind where like, I might be here for a while and just kind of like, it's almost like that soothed me kind of. Like I was so naive that like, I just kind of like went through it and like kind of labored with my husband the whole time. I'm like texting my doula. I'm doing all the things I know how to do, like on the birth ball, in and out of the shower, which was like, that worked a lot for me. It was like in and out of the shower. I spent a lot of my early labor like in and out of the shower. And then I feel like once I got to active labor, it was around like 5:30, I think. I have the text from my husband. He texted my doula from my phone, Chelsea, and he was like, okay, she's asking for you. So I was at 5:30. She gets here like 6:15. My contractions were like 5 minutes apart at that point. And then she gets there and our birth pool was blown up already in our bedroom. It's where I had my son. And then everything was ready to go. There was a point in the pool where I was like, I know that I'm like there. This isn't going to be like a tomorrow thing. I feel like, again, my whole labor, I was like, I don't know. I got to stay strong now because like this could be like a while. And so I was just like waiting for this like, you know, mountain that I was going to like come up to and like not be able to get to the top. Like I was like, it's coming, it's coming. Like this is probably not the worst of it. And I told myself like, this is probably not the worst of it. And then by the time like I was pushing, like the worst of it had like come and gone, I guess. Maybe not the worst of it because I hadn't pushed yet. But yeah, I just feel like I was in such a good like headspace the whole time. Just knowing like what was happening and like not being like, what is this? Like, you know. So yeah, I feel like it's like hard to explain. Like it felt long, but also fast at the same time. Like I guess in my mind, I was fully prepared to have a long labor. And if you're a first time mom, you should prepare to have a long labor too, because then it will feel short for you too. And then she texts my midwife. She's like, hey, like she's saying I think she's trying to push. Like, and my midwife was like, oh no, like first time mom, like baby still has to go through the birth canal. They told me about this conversation later on. And so she's like, text the other midwife that was attending the birth with her and was like, hey, like, I think we should head to this birth. And that midwife was like, no way. And like, are you sure? Like, everyone was just like, really, like, I don't know. It seems like kind of early. And then, because at this point it was like 6 a.m. and my water just broke at like 2, broke like a little after 2, like 2:10. So it's like 6 a.m. and people are like, she's ready to push. And then, so my midwife gets there around like 8:30, 8:45. And then I'm in the pool. I remember there was like a vivid moment where I think I was like a little at my midwife. Like she wanted me to get out of the pool. I'm sure that like maybe my contractions maybe slowed down or maybe I was just getting a little too comfy in there. But there's like, I don't remember this point. So this must be where I was like in transition. Maybe I'm like on the bed and I'm just like begging to get back in the pool. So they let me get back in the pool and then I start pushing. And I pushed for like an hour and 15 minutes, 18 minutes, like somewhere around there. When I was in the water, I started pushing, his head came out and I stood up. And so at this point, like if you've never had a water birth before, if you're not familiar, like you cannot go back down in the water. Like you have to birth in the water or out of the water. So like I started birthing him in the water, stood up, and then they were like, okay, like you can't go back down. My husband's like holding me up and I'm like I kind of don't. I was on my knees like a lot of my labor. So at this point, I'm just like, so then there wasn't like a complication, but they had noticed there was like this whole conversation happening that I was not aware of in the moment. I found out about this after, but when I had stood up, my midwife had said there were 3 cords. And so my husband's like, there's 3 umbilical cords? Like not out loud. He was very calm. Like I said, I had no idea this occurred. He told me this later. He was like, I thought she was saying he had 3 umbilical cords. And I am just like, what is going on? Anyways, his cord was wrapped 3 times around his neck. So they had told me to step outside the pool so that, you know, the next push when he came out, I wasn't in the water. So I stepped outside the pool and a couple pushes later, pushed the rest of them out and they quickly like unwrapped his cord and he was a little gurgly and they, you know, were able to get some of that like fluid out and he was fine. That was it. Like I would have never known if they didn't tell me that. That was like a later conversation that my husband told me about. And I was like, that's crazy because I would have never known that in the moment. But so yeah, so he was born at like 10:28. It was like around like 8 hours from the time my water broke up to him being born. And it was crazy because like I didn't know that I was going to spend most of my labor, like just me and my husband, like laboring through, like trying all the things that we had learned in our birth class and through our midwife and doula and like all these things. But yeah, then she got there and my doula did, and she did some stretches with me. I was having like some low back pain and she was able to do some stretches with me to help that. That was good. And yeah, it was pretty like straightforward, I would say. It really wasn't a lot of like hurdles other than that umbilical cord. So then after birth, like if you're not all birth, like they make sure that you can go to the bathroom and they help you go to the bathroom for the first time. And I'm in the bathroom, like sitting down on the toilet, like peeing. And like one of the midwives was like, she could very obviously tell what was about to happen. I didn't. She's like asking me how I feel. And I'm just like, I remember just like kind of being a little not in shock, but just kind of like, I just birthed a human, you know, like I'm looking at her like, how am I supposed to feel? What do you mean? How do I feel? I feel like I just gave birth. Like, and so then she's like, okay, we're going to go down to the ground. And I'm like, huh? You like, I'm on the toilet. You want me to go down on the ground in the bathroom? And so then she like helps me up and she picks me up and I literally just like pass out. And so I didn't lose like a lot of blood. My midwife said it wasn't from losing a lot of blood. Sometimes it can just be like a blood pressure shift after birth, she had said. So, because I didn't know I was about to, I've never passed out before. And she this is Abigail, our other midwife. She catches me and carries me to the bed. Like a Navy SEAL, okay? Like carries me from my bathroom to my bed, which is not that close. And yeah, it lays me down. They give me some fluids and I felt like an idiot and it was fine. That was all there was to it. So I guess like those might have seemed like bigger issues if I wasn't at home. I probably would have been very aware of those in the moment too, I'm guessing, based on some stories I've heard. But typically when the cord's around the neck, it's usually a panic moment in the hospital.
No, and that's the thing too, that even if those two things would have happened in the hospital, like those two things are not happening because you had a home birth. And I always like
Yeah.
to make sure that I say this too, because you can still have a baby with a cord wrapped around its neck multiple times when you're in the hospital. You can still pass out in the hospital as well. This isn't a only home birth induced incident. And honestly, the passing out when you go to the bathroom honestly happens in a lot of people. I feel like it is like very common because I have heard that quite often too. And especially like for me, I don't think I ever actually passed out, but felt a little woozy a little bit
It was
immediately
like
after.
I've never passed out, so I'm like, what even defines passing out? Because it was like I definitely did. Like I definitely
Yeah.
did, but I think it was like 3, 5, 10 seconds, like
Yeah.
very fast, and then came back too.
Yeah. No, for
And
sure.
it's just like I always like to include that in my story because a lot of people, like from the time I got pregnant, like I said at the beginning of this, like I just kind of project like, what if something happens? It's like the number one gold standard you have to ask someone if they're having a home birth. What if something happens?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, things do happen still, but the punchline is like if you have a care team that is they know what to do and they're calm, which they were for both of those things. Like I said, me not knowing was like just huge for me. Like I feel like part of the times it's like a lot of the times it's like, the way that we react to things, we treat things like an emergency when they aren't. And so neither of those things were emergencies. They were handled so well, so calmly, and they handled them. Like there was nothing to prevent those, like you said, could
Yeah.
have happened in the hospital. But I think the way they handled them, just sometimes I forget that even happened because it's such a minor part of my birth story, but it could have been like a big part, like, oh, like it was an emergency. They took the baby right away because like the cord was around their neck, they weren't breathing, and and I'm not saying like those emergencies don't happen. I think that it could have looked a lot differently if I wasn't in the hands of someone that was confident and calm and knew what to do.
Oh, for sure. And it goes to show too, midwives are trained. They're not just some random person showing up and just like
Yeah.
watching you give birth. Like they are trained. They do
Like
know.
I said, she knew it was going to happen before I did. I didn't
Yeah.
even, I was like, why is she asking me this? Like she knew just by looking in my eyes. She's
Yeah.
like, I just noticed in your eyes. Like I could tell. And I was like, I'm glad she knew.
Yeah. No, that's good. So looking back at this first home birth, what were the biggest lessons or takeaways that just really shaped how you approach pregnancy and birth for your second time around?
Well, I think like a lot of people, once you give birth for the first time, like you've just shed that newness of it, like regardless of where you give birth, once you do it once, just like everything else, it's like your first time is only ever your first time. And then like every time after that, it's not new anymore. So I just kind of like just shed that, oh, like, can I really do it? Like I never thought that I couldn't. I knew that like that's God's design of me. Like I was very confident in that. Like this is how everybody used to give birth. Okay. Like I know that I can do this. I know that I'm made to do this. Like not because of anything special I did to be able to. It's just by that is how God designed women to give birth. It's not an emergency. Like everything somehow works perfectly for you to birth a human. Not all the time. But like nature doesn't, our natural design doesn't always happen that way. Things happen. But yeah, I think just shedding that newness and just going into my second birth, like, okay, like I don't have that unknown that I had the first time. Confident, but still a lot of unknown. Now I have the whole experience. And so I can focus on like kind of just keeping that tucked away my whole pregnancy and not having to live in like a place of like, I don't know what to expect because I had already done it and I knew. My friend from that I mentioned from the beginning had told me like it's easier the second time. Maybe that's not true for everybody, but it was true for me. So yeah, I just really held on to that experience and how they handled everything and like how cared for I was and just like supported, and I couldn't not experience that again. So
Yeah.
it was a no-brainer, obviously, again the second time. But yeah, I think I felt just even more confident than I did the first time because now I knew everything I knew the first time. Now I know more because you always come out of birth with more knowledge if you have, if you're a provider, if you have a good provider, you're going to come out knowing more like the second time. And so just all the knowledge I had combined with an experience now. And so, which was great because my second birth pretty much labored alone.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right into that birth story then.
So my second birth, I don't think I was in as great of a readiness mindset, I guess. I just like life. I had a toddler now. Yeah, he was 21 months at this point. So it wasn't like I just sat around watching, I wasn't in birth land all the time leading up to my birth, it was just kind of I'm pregnant on the side of being a mom now. And so definitely some things fell off the radar. I didn't go to the chiropractor as much, still went, but wasn't religious about everything. My husband's convincing me to do my stretches at night. I'm still doing them. You know what you need to do still. And so second birth, I remember the night that I went into labor, sitting on the couch, and it's just a hard season of life for us, unrelated to birth, but I was just not in the best mood. And straight up, I was like, God, don't let this be the day because I'm not in the mood. I felt one contraction on the couch and I knew because it's I've given birth now at this point before. And so I knew that I literally just start crying. I'm I just wasn't ready. I just need another day. I was 39 weeks and 5 days when she was born. So earlier this time, kind of shocked me a little bit. And so immediately I'm I remember we just weren't ready. I wanted to give birth somewhere else. My toddler slept in our room with us at this point. And so I'm we didn't really have a care coverage for him. We were just flying by the seat of our pants with it. And hopefully he sleeps. If not, he goes right back to sleep. It wasn't really something I don't know. We were worried about it the whole birth, I guess. What are we going to do if our son is awake for this? How's that going to look? And so, yeah, basically he knew something was going on because he would not sleep. Fully knew. He's very in tune. Something's going on down there. I don't know. He kept waking up, wanting us. Every 30 minutes, we'd put him back to bed. He would wake back up. It was just so weird. So I'm going through contractions. I stand up. After that one contraction, my husband had just went upstairs to get our toddler. He woke up moments after that contraction. My water breaks as he's walking up the stairs to go get our toddler. And I'm okay, great. Because I was already not in the mood for this, but now what's happening? My husband was up there and I at this point am okay, we just threw literally every single towel we own is in the washer right now. So just concerned at this point. A pool's not blown up. Things are progressing. I'm the contractions are getting strong. They're coming closer. I can tell that this is just going much faster. And at this point, I called my sister. She lives right by me, my younger sister. And I'm hey, bring every towel you have right now because I might not need them, but just can you come? Because John might be tied up with Dawson or I might need you for Dawson, either or, but can you just come? She's yes, I'm coming. So my sister comes and at this point I'm just she's downstairs, getting stuff ready and I'm upstairs. I go upstairs. My toddler's asking for me and I'm okay, I'm going to go up because I don't know, once I get to a certain point in labor, I'm not going to be able to be there for him. I'm going to be in labor land. So I go up there, I'm holding him. He goes back to sleep. It's dark in the room. My husband takes him back. He's rocking him in the chair. The contractions are they're there. I'm this is escalate. This is 0 to 100 very fast. At this point, it had only been I think 45 minutes or an hour maybe. So we're up there. I'm laying in the bed in a dark room. My husband can't see me, but I can see him. He's in the chair with my son. And it's Frere Jacques on or something. I'm in labor land, just breathing through contractions. I'm in the bed, just literally breathing through. I text my doula, Chelsea, again, and I'm hey, my water broke. And she's do you want me to come? And I'm I don't know. And so she's let me know. She had just had a baby right before that, he was 3 weeks old. Her baby was 3 weeks old. So she brings her newborn to my birth, which I knew he was going to be there. And he was great. He's slept the whole time. So he's downstairs on the couch. Chelsea comes in while I'm in the dark. Frere Jacques. I think there was just this, oh, Jordyn's super peaceful right now. She's doing great. She's probably not that far. She just seems really chill right now from the outside. And on the inside, I'm just I know that I'm this is happening very soon. Way sooner than the last one. And so at this point, my toddler's back to sleep and Chelsea comes up in there and she's hey, I'm here. I'm going to go grab your water. Do you need anything else? And I'm yeah, I think I need to get out of this room before I wake him up because I'm about to, I'm there. So she's helping me down the hallway. And I'm trying to get to my spare bedroom. We have a spare bedroom down there. And I'm asking about the pool. My husband comes out and he's blowing up the pool. And my doula's there's not going to be time for that. You might want to come up here. And I'm what do you mean? There's not going to be time for that. And I drop on the ground on all fours in the hallway, in the middle of my hallway between my bedroom and my spare bedroom. There's a long hall. And you can see down to our bottom level of our house. And he's down there and he's got the pool in his hand. And she's you might want to come up here. And I'm on all fours and I literally just start pushing. And my son wakes up. So my husband runs up the stairs, goes and gets my toddler. And great. Now my son's here for the birth. I'm looking up and I'm just like, you know what? Hi. Like it was so cute. There was like a moment where he was like, good job, mama. And I was like, okay, bearing down. Like, it was just like that extra push I needed in that moment. And I remember like he gave me like my water. And it was just like really special to have him there. I'm sure like obviously he didn't know what was happening, but like I have the birth video and he does like understand. Like we talk about it, and I don't know. It's just one of those things where my husband and I were so worried about him being there. And like now it's just like a core memory for me, even if he doesn't remember it. But yeah, it was just really special. Like he was literally there when she came out, and like we didn't know that she was a girl till she came out. So that was really special too. Like he thought she was a girl and she was a girl. So that was just also really special. And yeah, he wasn't like scared. He was just like, just kind of taking it in, just like watching. And I don't know. I'm like on all fours and I look up and I see my husband and my son, and it was just like nothing at all what my brain wanted me to think it would be. It was just chaotic and like, and, you know, just all the negatives of what I kind of worked it up to be in my brain of like, what if this happens? And it was so not any of that, and it was fine. And anyways, I'm pushing and I realize I'm like, Caitlin, where are you? Where are you? She's on the phone next to me on the wall. And I'm like, Caitlin, are you going to be here? And she's like, I'm coming as fast as I can. Like literally driving. Yeah, it was crazy. Like it just happened so fast. The whole thing was like 3 hours and like a couple minutes. It was like maybe it was like 2 hours and 58 minutes. I don't know. It was like right at the 3 hour mark. And it was just like kind of intense because yeah, there wasn't a lot of time to process stuff. It was just like, it's happening. And then she was here. My midwife like was a few minutes late. So my doula, like not all heroes wear capes. Okay. She puts on the gloves and just like, I start pushing, and it really wasn't a thing to me. I think because she was so calm, like you would have never thought that was her first time catching a baby. Like I asked her after, I was like, have you like, there's like a video of me telling her like, you just caught my baby. Like I'm just like in shock of like that just happened without like, I don't know. Like I never thought you were going to catch my baby, but yeah, she did great. And she was just so calm that like, I didn't really think anything of it other than looking over and seeing my midwife on the phone. And I asked her if she was going to be there, but Chelsea was so calm and like steady and just like ready and just like, you know, she was there, she was supporting me, not being like, not coach pushing me, not just like, it was just awesome. Like she just did such a great job. Like I said, like the peace in your birth space is so, so important. I think that could have been a panic moment if she wasn't calm. She's like, what do I do? Like, she's pushing. I need you to hurry. Like, I feel like it could have gone so much differently. But the people like in your space, like, that's why it's so important, like who you have in there. Everybody in your birth space needs to know that you can do it. And they need to be a calm, steady, like supportive presence. And if they aren't that, they shouldn't be in your birth space. Yeah. Like it was just surreal. Like, I don't know. And just seeing her do that and just, I don't know, it really inspired me too. Like I just realized like that is so important when you're in that, you're in a very vulnerable state. Okay. Like sometimes it's not about what you do. Sometimes it's about just like what you're radiating into the environment. It's felt, and yeah, I was just like very calm. Like I felt very calm with her doing that, even though like my midwife wasn't there. I never would have thought that would have happened. But yeah, she comes out and delivers her, and she's like, my midwife comes like a few minutes later, probably like, I want to say it was only like 5 minutes later because she was there before I had my placenta. So yeah, and it was great. It was just so fast. And yeah, that was also pretty straightforward birth, just a little different in that I had the, you know, the dream like first birth kind of happening. And like, you know, I kind of plugged that into my second birth, and it didn't at all go like that, like in any capacity, but it still went perfectly. So I guess the punchline here is that like birth, whether in the hospital or at home, like it doesn't always go to the plan that you have set, and it doesn't mean that it can't still be a good birth. Yeah, it was still a great birth. So
yeah, that's what I always say too, is birth is going to birth, because it doesn't matter how, like literally just because you had one type of birth does not mean that that's how every kid that you have is going to be. It's the same with pregnancies and kids in general. Like just because one kid is one way, has a certain personality, doesn't mean that now you're just going to copy and paste that exact thing. Like it just does not work that way.
When I said like we were kind of like navigating a tough season in our like life, like outside of just being pregnant, I feel like the Lord was really just teaching me something in that birth too, of like it's not about your plan, and like where you're weak, I'm strong. Like this is where like I meet you. And so like this was just something that like the Lord was kind of like teaching me outside of birth, and then just that birth just really just like kind of solidified that for me. Like that was a really important birth for me, because that was something I was like walking through outside of birth, was just like trusting God, like in when things don't go according to our plan, and like, you know, it's not about our plan, and like he's gonna show up. And so it was just kind of like comical because that birth was just like, this is literally nothing this is nothing like the first birth. And it also didn't go, none of this is part of the plan.
Yeah.
And things that were part of the plan I didn't get. But yeah, that was just like such a teachable moment for me, like spiritually too. So I think that's important to my birth.
For sure. I think that is just great life advice anyways, that it's about God's plan, not your own. Even your plan is just more of a fleshly desire anyway. And obviously you can pray and request and ask, but that doesn't mean that you just automatically get it because God's not a genie. You also really, really just need to surrender to him and his will for your life because he sees it all. He knows exactly what's going to happen and what should happen. And
yeah, he knew how that birth was going to go. Like,
yeah. And honestly, a lot of times, like, we think just because he can see it all, his plan is always better no matter what. Even if in the moment we think like, man, this sucks, but surrender to his will for sure. I want to jump into your support system because we kind of talked about that. You had mentioned how obviously in the second one, your doula was a huge key piece to it because she caught your baby. So what would you say to a mom, maybe a first-time mom considering home birth or even in the hospital, how big of a key is a doula to their birth plan?
If I had it my way, like doulas would be a requirement to give birth. Like truly, essential, really, in my opinion. I know some people are like, I just prefer nobody. There's people out there that they don't want anybody in their birth space. I think that having a doula, especially as a first-time mom, is so important. I mean, first of all, like statistically, like first-time moms have better birth outcomes with doulas. So the good experience doula, like first-time mom's gonna have a better outcome. Like that's just a fact. So that's I guess outside of me thinking that you should have one. But yeah, hire a doula. They're going to be your support. I think a lot of times, yeah, you're a first-time mom if you're a first-time mom, but your partner is also a first-time dad. They've never been through it either. And so like, I think just as a doula, she was able to help my husband be really hands-on in birth and like show him how to like support me the best, even though he didn't need much help. But like even like exercises and stuff, I feel like that was like really huge for my husband and I. Like he was already very pro home birth going into our first birth. But yeah, he was very like hands-on. And then the second birth when he couldn't be, she was. And so it's like, I just think doulas are so important. They're like your whole support. And like, it's really important that you have someone that like you mentioned personalities earlier, like having a personality that aligns with that person. So like me, like it was very important that everyone in my birth space was a believer. That was like a no-brainer for me. Yeah, we had to have that in common. And that was just more so because like I wanted someone that was going to be able to pray over me. I wanted someone that knew that God like had designed me to give birth. And like I wanted someone that was just going to bring that peace. Like you can't give that peace if you don't have that peace. And so like I wanted the peace of Jesus like during my births. And so I knew that the people I picked were going to bring that in with them. And so yeah, I think have a doula that aligns with your beliefs and your kind of your values and your birth plan. And then also she was a critical reason why I was able to successfully breastfeed forever. Yeah. And we are like great best friends now. Like
It's awesome.
Talk all the time. Like we're really great friends. But I think just seeing her like be so calm and knowing what it did for me, like I just think about like moms that don't have that and they're just in that situation and just like kind of in their brain by themselves. And like, I don't know, it's so important. It makes it like, it's the difference between you clenching up in birth or feeling safe in birth and like somebody has you there. Obviously God had me, but also Chelsea had me there and I knew that. And she made me feel safe. So
yeah, for sure. And that's something that I always say too is like you need to birth where you feel the safest with whoever you feel the safest. And a lot of times, and I know for some reason this ends up being really controversial, but like if your mom does not bring peace and does not help you feel safe and you feel like you're competing with her, then she probably should not be in the room while you're giving birth.
My mom would be in my birth and I said no. She won't like share this and not care because like she had some concerns. And I was like, I just don't want the concerns. Just like, it's just.
And yeah, and for some reason, people think that's very controversial, but like, this is my baby, my birth. And it doesn't mean that I love you any less or I don't care about you, but like, it's important that whoever I feel safest with in this situation, wherever I feel safest, that's who I should birth with. And honestly, a lot of times, actually both times for me, it ended up just really being my husband. I had a doula with my first, which was Haley, which she is now a midwife and she was on the podcast, but she was my doula and it was literally just her and my husband. And then in my last birth, it was literally just my husband. So, and that's honestly, that's where I felt safest. So it was good though. Yeah. So if a first time mom is listening and like considering home birth, especially for her first, what would you want her to hear?
I think I would just want her to hear like knowledge is power. I know that's so like cliche and it's just been thrown around like forever and ever and ever, but it really is. Like, think about anything you've done for the first time. Like, you're intimidated immediately because it's the first time. But if you already know a lot about that thing, like the reason why like birth is sometimes intimidating them when you're a first time mom is because we've just been so failed on the education front of birth. Like we weren't taught really about physiological birth. Like in the births that we see the most of are like all just so standardized in the hospital. And it's like we don't see a lot of like, I mean, the percentage of people having home births is like so small, like was like 1%. Like 1%, I think. So small. So it's like, one, people don't know to consider having a home birth. And even if you don't know if you even want a home birth, I still think like learning about it would be helpful because you're going to learn so much about birth. I have like the two different frameworks of like how, you know, a midwife is going to view birth and like kind of care for you while you're pregnant. And this is like OBGYN care and like how you'll be cared for during your birth. And like, this is what's standard here and this is what's not standard here. And just like learning like, okay, why is it this way? And why don't you do that here? And you're just going to learn a lot. And I think that anytime you make a big decision, like how you're going to give birth, where you're going to give birth, who's going to deliver your baby, it should not be out of fear, whether that's at home or in the hospital. Like you and I kind of talked about this, like even with a home birth, it's like if you're having home birth and you don't really like know, you're not educated and like you're just scared of the hospital, like it's still not like a great way to go into home birth. Like either way, you should feel confident because you have been informed on all fronts and that's what led you to your decision. I think for me, like I'm a really analytical person. And so like, I'm gonna like big and small things, like maybe even to a fault. I've had, you know, I took a poll on like friends and family. One of the questions for this was like, how do you describe your personality? And I was like, man, like, I feel like it might just like depend who you ask. My kids or my husband, or my friends and family, like hopefully they all say around the same thing, but might vary slightly. And they all kind of said around the same thing. Like you're rooted in like your beliefs and your convictions and like you're very analytical. Like you're not just going to go with something. Like you're going to get to the bottom of something. You're going to have all the information before you make a choice, even like the smallest things. And I feel like, yeah, sometimes that's to a fault, but the whole point is like make an informed decision about your birth, not your mom's opinion, not your sister's opinion, not your best friend's opinion that has more kids than you, not somebody on the internet. Like, regardless of what you choose, like, get the information, know the facts. Evidence-based birth, like, is your best friend, regardless of what type of birth you want to have. Get the information and make a decision so that you feel confident. I think that when you're making a decision based out of fear or like, I've just never been exposed to something, it seems scarier than it is, like, every time.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what I was going to say too is how do you actually know that you truly don't want a home birth or that you truly don't want to give birth in the hospital if you haven't actually learned about both things? Like if you haven't even studied, even if you're like, oh, I'm probably giving birth in a hospital, but you haven't still looked into, well, how do they view birth? Like, what are all the interventions that they do? And you haven't asked them questions too of like, what's your C-section rate? What's like your like induction rate? What's your policies when it comes to that? Because you can always say no to everything, but they do follow policy. And a lot of times because birth there just normally goes one way, and this isn't speaking for all hospitals because I had a great experience, but I think that it's good no matter what, just like you said, like look into what a home birth is and interview midwives. Just because you interview home birth midwives does not mean that you now have to go with a midwife. And I think that this is always the big misconception too when it comes to interviewing birth providers. Just because you interview does not mean that you automatically now have to go with it. And a lot of people get sucked into birthing at a hospital and not choosing, you know, their provider because since they went to that 10-week appointment in the hospital, now they feel like they can't leave. They feel like because they got care there, now they can't leave. I know plenty of people. We've interviewed a couple people on this podcast too that literally didn't have a midwife until they were like 30 weeks pregnant. They had to switch providers because they moved at like 20 some weeks pregnant. Like, you are not stuck. You are allowed to fire and hire whoever you want, whenever you want. And you're allowed to go to the hospital for your 10-week appointment and then do some more education and realize, no, I want a home birth. And you're allowed to switch. Like, I don't know why that's such a hard thing for people to realize, but like, just because you go for one appointment doesn't mean you're in there for life. You're allowed to fire and hire as you please because it's your birth. Like, yeah, I just think that that's important. But you had mentioned how you are kind of getting your certifications to become a doula, which is amazing. So what really sparked that desire for you?
I think just ever since I've given birth, like I have just thought like, wow, this is crazy. Like I there's so many people out here that don't experience this. Like, what do you mean? Like, everybody deserves that level of support and that standard of care. Unfortunately, most people don't. And I just think about like the moms that have had those experiences in the hospital where they didn't feel supported and they didn't have somebody in their corner when they felt unsure, and they kind of just like, they were in that position where they didn't have somebody in the middle or next to them to just say, hey, it's okay to like think about this for a few minutes before you decide. Not even helping you make the decision, just putting a line in the sand and being like, it's okay for you to, like, this is not an emergency. And then, yeah, I just always like kind of dreamed about being in the birth space, but I didn't really know what capacity. I always thought it'd be great to be a doula. I think I'm done with the school thing. I don't see myself being a midwife. I'm not a photographer, but just like supporting women I've had, like, I mean, I feel like I have 3 sisters and a lot of them call me, and I just think about them one day and I'm just like, gosh, I hope they have that support when the time comes. And if not somebody else, then I hope I can be. And then, so I'm thinking about, you know, like what that would be like kind of like as a fairy tale dream. And then my sister got pregnant and was considering a home birth and then ended up choosing home birth and wanted me to be her doula. And I was like, I was like thinking about this forever, but like I wasn't really planning on doing that like in this season of life. But yeah, I went through doula training and just kind of like did it. And that's the only birth I have under my belt as of now, but I definitely see a future with it. Yeah, it makes me like weepy. Like I know that I'm supposed to be in the birth space because I will literally, like, it just has happened last night. Like I will literally like cry at birth videos. Like I just think they're so special. And just like, yeah, I don't know, like just seeing like a woman like in that vulnerable state, just like so strong, and just like just such a privilege really to like support someone in that space. And I supported my sister. I'll just give the spark notes. We can have her on later if you want. But so she was a planned home birth, and as birth does, sometimes it didn't go to plan, and she went into labor. Her water broke before she went into labor. And so she was just like a little too long with her water broken and ended up having to transfer to the hospital. So her wish of having home birth didn't happen, but she still had a birth plan. We made like a quick on the fly, you know, birth plan for the hospital, and she was still able to get some of those wishes she wanted, which was no epidural. She wanted a vaginal delivery, didn't want a C-section, and she ended up having to get Pitocin and still did it without an epidural. And just like it was almost like a spectator moment when she gave birth without an epidural. Like the amount of people they brought into that room to see a mom like giving birth without an epidural was like insane. I was like, it's almost like they're watching like the championship, like NFL something. It was crazy. But yeah, she was so strong. She was a first time mom too. And yeah, I think just being in that and supporting her through that birth just even set me even more on fire for it, because there were times where I had to kind of hold her hand through some things and kind of like explain some things that they were trying to force upon her that she didn't want. She didn't really know what they meant. And so just being able to like, sometimes as a doula, like your job isn't really to like be the bodyguard. It's more so just like giving them permission to ask another question, or giving them permission to take time to decide, like in that environment. Obviously at home, it's a lot of those things aren't really, you don't deal with a lot of that at home, but it just made me think about like maybe people giving birth in the hospital need that support even more, because the whole cascade of interventions is like, you're just not going to see that at home. And so a lot of the things that are standard are, you know, being able to decide like what level of Pitocin to start on with her getting induced in the hospital, and like them wanting to start here and just saying, would it be possible to start lower? Like she having in mind her birth plan, like being in that position for my sister, just like knowing that she does not want an epidural. And so like, can we start her lower on Pitocin? And like, yeah. And then just the whole breastfeeding thing after she gave birth. And then like, just, you know, I'm not a breast feeding specialist, but I have breastfed 2 babies, and like I was taught. So it's kind of like that art, like you said at the beginning, of like, it's kind of been lost, like passing on information. And like before, when we didn't have all these people in our birth space, like you would be relying on your mom or sister or friend or whoever was there to like help you get that first latch, or just like, making you feel safe. And so, yeah, I think I always kind of saw that, just being in that space myself. And then when I supported my sister, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. People need this. There's a real need for this.
I like to close every episode with one question that I ask every mom, and that is, if you could speak one piece of empowering wisdom into the hearts of the mothers listening, what would it be?
Gosh, that's hard. So many words come out of my mouth. Probably just make an informed decision. And yeah, you don't have to earn a home birth. I had a lot of people just like are so shook when they hear that I chose home birth the first time. And I think that's like, there's a lot of people that have had home births, but being a first time mom, I think it is kind of like in a little less common. And so I think like if you're a first time mom talking to you, and I just consider and know why you're choosing what you're choosing, whichever way you go. Don't just blindly choose a hospital because you're too scared to consider home birth. It might be less scarier than you think, and it might be more scarier the other way. You never know. Just ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. And like Brooke said before, like if you are already seeing an OB or a midwife and you're feeling like you need to change care, then change care. Yeah. Just take charge of your birth. Like it's your body, it's your baby, and you're the one giving birth. And so make an informed decision on all fronts. And then just most importantly, just know that like God literally designed our bodies perfectly to do this. Even if it doesn't always work out perfectly, but we were designed for it. So it's not just some fluke thing. Like I might be able to do that. Like your body is perfectly designed to do that. So whichever way you go, whether you're having hospital birth or home birth, just go into your birth knowing that. And yeah, that's probably my best piece of advice.
No, that's good. And Jordyn, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on Her Birth, Her Story.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I am so happy to contribute to this conversation.
Wow, what an inspiring story from Jordyn. Thank you so much for sharing, Jordyn. I just love how she is very big on your support team and how she's so big on knowledge is power, because at the end of the day, when you are making the decisions, you deserve to feel informed completely, and you deserve to feel confident in those choices. So once again, Jordyn, thank you so much for sharing. If this episode inspired you or encouraged you in any way, please share it with another mom who needs to hear it. And as always, please like, rate, review the show. This helps us get these episodes out to as many moms as possible. And don't forget that this is your body, your baby, and your birth. We are reclaiming birth one story at a time.